Welcome into the Locked On Knicks podcast. Gavin Shaw, Alex Wolf, and one day after we try to trade him away on his birthday, Alex, of course, Julius Randle goes off and the New York Knicks get a big win.
Yeah, Julius came on fast and never relented in this game, just making the Pistons look like as you said in our pre-show, like a college team out there in this game, absolutely destroying them. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about RJ Barrett with a sneakily good game with due to the way that he approached it. Quentin Grimes continuing to look good. Pretty much everybody looking good. If we're being completely honest, when your team scores 140 in regulation, things went pretty well right. So lots of good things to talk about next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Knicks, and today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day. We're now available on all platforms, and that includes, and you're going to see some improved lighting on YouTube. If you go to watch on YouTube, yeah, that's right. You can see every pore in our faces. And if that doesn't appeal to you, why are you doing this? But who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Shaw, a play-by-play broadcaster. He is Alex Wolf, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. But for now, Alex, we got to talk about the Dom.Nins. I didn't think that through. I shouldn't have said that. But you know what? We're already recording. A 140-110 victory for the New York Knicks over the Detroit Pistons. And it was defined by Julius Randle absolutely cooking, especially early in this one. 17 points in the first 10 minutes, was bombing threes, was dunking on people's heads. Just about as good of a Julius Randle performance as you could ever hope for.
Yeah, certainly from a scoring perspective. And I mean, based off how things have gone with Julius at times this year, last year, whatever, I almost was just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, he started off so hot and I was like, okay, well, he's going to cool off at some point. And then that point just never came. It felt very, very like 20-21 Julius Randle against the Hawks kind of energy, like just unstoppable.
You should clarify regular season
against the Hawks. Yeah, he destroyed them in the regular season, not so much of the playoffs. Yeah, I thought about that the second I said that. Or against the Mavericks that year, I think he was great too. Like one of those two opponents during the regular season in 2021. That's kind of how it felt with Julius in this game. I mean, it just looked effortless for him. He even said in the post-game comments with Clyde and Breen, like they were like, oh, do you kind of just like wake up feeling like you're feeling it any given day? And he was like, yeah, I kind of felt it today. It's like, yeah, it was pretty obvious. I kind of expected, like I said, that eventually he would just cool off, and he didn't. And it was, I mean, I don't even know how much there is to break down about how his game went or anything. There wasn't anything that he really flashed that was like too spectacular. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It was just like, it reminded me in many ways of those games when like Melo would just absolutely cook and not be able to miss on jumpers. Like, I think Julius's first like 7 shots or something were threes, or maybe even more than that. Like, he just knew, like, okay, I've got the 3-point shot going tonight. This is just what I'm going to go to all night. And in the end, 13 out of his 24 attempts are from 3, and 6 of his 14 makes are from 3. So, you know, most of that was in the early going. He did find other ways, like shooting in the mid range and stuff like that, to score later on. But yeah, just a phenomenal game for him, and just one of those games where you just go, you know what, this guy. I don't think it would have mattered if it was the Pistons or tomorrow night's matchup against the Bucks. Like, he was going to cook whoever was in front of him in this particular game, I think. And it just so happened to be the Pistons, the worst team in the NBA. So good for him. It was a really, really good game and very fun to watch.
Yeah, it certainly helped, though, that the Pistons inexplicably decided to never really respect the shot in this game and just continued to play off of him. And then the one time they closed out on him late in the second quarter, RJ threw him, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit in the next segment. RJ threw him a really nice over-the-head hook pass, and Julius just pumped one step to the left, drained it. But to me, what was really impressive about this performance from Julius was that he was able to adjust in the second half. I mean, probably not that he missed a ton of threes or anything, but kind of had an innate understanding of, all right, that probably wasn't sustainable. So in a rare bit of self-awareness from him, he started doing other things, and he just got super, super aggressive. He drew a technical foul on Isaiah Stewart with a vicious transition dunk when he just ran the floor super hard, and Brunson hit him with a super nice pass. And then just, I mean, no one on the Pistons was really a clean matchup for him, but sometimes when he had Bogdanovich on him, I mean, first play of the second half, he literally just went right through Bogey, which was great. And then later in the third quarter, had a really impressive play where he kind of pumped, and it was one of those ones where you're like, all right, Julius, come on, man, please just pass the ball, like do something good. And it looked like he was going to lean in and force up the shot. But once he drew the eyes of three defenders, he swung it over to Grimes. And that was the play where Grimes got the hard closeout, drove by it, slipped past to Mitch for a dunk that Grimes seems to do just about every single game now. But to me, that was the play more than anything that reminded me of 2021 Julius Randle, because it was him weaponizing, I guess, for lack of a better term, his slow processing speed for good, and drawing in the whole defense just because he was moving like a turtle, and was also so hot, and he leveraged that gravity to kick it to Grimes. And then the final, I'm pretty sure what was his final big play of this game, he just ripped it out of Sadiq Bey's hand. Ran the floor hard with the ball, and then unselfishly got it to Quentin Grimes for a layup. So there were a couple of really bad shots in the first half. There's one play where he tried to draw a foul and just threw it away to no one, and then was still at half court while the Pistons had taken three different shots. That almost gave me an aneurysm, but you know what? It's his birthday. It was by and large a fantastic night for him. So all in all, nothing but good things from Julius Randle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and I think that we've seen in these last two games two very different but similar versions of Randle, where he is weaponizing some of the best things that he can do on a basketball court. Like in the previous game, almost getting the triple-double, not really looking to score so much and more looking to set up his teammates. In this game, understanding like, hey, I'm really hot, but then to your point, in the second half, switching at a certain point to say, okay, you know what, like I'm not as hot now. So, you know, like first quarter, it looked like he was going to be a little heat checky throughout the rest of the game, but he really didn't do that. He really turned it around and started finding his teammates and, you know, really getting things going. So yeah, I love how he's played these last two games. As usual, the caveat is like, can we see more of it? You know, will this keep going? Will he? Won't. Yeah, you know, it's kind of the lesson that we've come to learn at this point. It's like tomorrow night he might come out against the Bucks and look like a zombie, you know, and there's no way to really know. Granted, I'd love to be proven wrong, because I would love if Julius just kind of all in all could turn it around, but we need to see a little more consistency out of him at this point to see if he can do that. Because I don't know what how many games in a row would he have to put together like this, Gavin, for you to be like, maybe the worm's turning a bit, like maybe he's starting to turn things around.
Oh man, I'm notoriously a pessimist. I mean, at this point, I don't know, half a season, 40. I mean, not, and to be clear, I don't mean 40 games of him hitting 6 threes. I just mean 40 games of him playing unselfish, taking smart shots, taking advantage of mismatches, and trying and being focused on defense for a full game, something like that. Because we have, again, three seasons of Jekyll and Hyde, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a scorned lover. I'm Alex. It's hard for me to kind of fully come around on him at this point.
Yeah, I feel pretty similar. I mean, I think if he could throw together like a solid 20 games in a row like this or something, maybe that would be the point where I'd be like, cool. But unfortunately, we're at this point where now we're just over the 20 game mark of this season, and all we could say is like, well, it's been a really, really mixed bag. It's probably been the most mixed bag of any of Julius's years so far, because it's been like anywhere from his lowest lows of the first and third seasons that he was with the Knicks, and the highest highs of the second season he was with the Knicks, the 2021 season. Like it almost happens not even just on a game to game basis, but like at halftime of a given game, or, you know, after the first quarter of a given game, like things can just totally change for him on a dime. So I don't know how to predict it. I wish we could see a more consistent Julius though, because in that case, we wouldn't even be really entertaining, and people wouldn't be asking us like for mailbags, like, oh, where do you want to trade Julius to? Because like people would be like, oh, let's just keep him. We'd be in the same mindset that we were in after the 2021 season. But again, it's going to take a little more consistency to have that happen. Speaking of consistency, though, I mean, there's another guy on the team in RJ Barrett who needs to show some more consistency too. But I think took a decent step in the right direction after today's game. But Gavin, if people wanted to bet on okay, they don't actually make lines. So they say if they want to bet on Julius Randle turning around, but you know what? If you want to bet on individual Julius Randle point totals in any given game, or just if the Knicks will win or lose tomorrow's game against the Bucks, if Julius can keep the hot streak going, where should people go to do that?
There's only one place in the whole wide world, Alex. It's betonline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. And Alex, they have odds on if a player will score over 64.5 points in a game this season. Who knows? It might be Julius Randle. He was right around on track for that. He was actually over on track for that 10 minutes into the game. He was on track for about 68. So you know what? If Julius Randle can do it, I think it could happen in the NBA this season. So head to BetOnline, throw some money on that, and just head to the website in general or your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And we want to thank you all one final time for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Alex, we are back on Locked On Knicks. RJ Barrett, I thought this was a step in the right direction. He didn't really force the issue in this one, which I loved. He did airball the one layup, but outside of that, there weren't any of those egregiously bad attempts that have defined his early season. All in all, I thought he played a really heady game, and I just hope this is a sign of things to come for him.
Yeah, I was telling you before we started recording, I think the most encouraging thing to me about this game for RJ was that it was midway through the second quarter, or like just over, like maybe even like 4 minutes left. I don't know exactly what the minute marker was, but it was pretty deep into the second quarter, and he scored a basket, and then Mike Breen was like, oh, and RJ Barrett scores his first basket. And I was like, oh, wow. I, one, didn't even know that was the case. And two, it didn't make itself apparent to me because it wasn't obvious that he hadn't scored yet, because he was doing other things to really help the team out. Like, I thought that he made some really great passes in this game. He opened the game by finding Mitch for a nice dunk, and then had a fantastic kick out, which I think you alluded to in the last segment. It was to Julius, correct?
Yeah. It was so he basically had Julius fake the pass, then to bait the defense further in one dribble, hook pass over his head.
Yeah, that pass, like, I was like eating dinner watching the game, and like when that pass happened, I was like, oh, like with a mouthful of drunken man noodles from my favorite Thai place. I was like, that's nice.
You were eating and Julius was eating at the same time.
They were both eating, and it was RJ was the fork in this analogy, I guess. He was feeding feeding Julius, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, he was great. Yeah. And honestly, even his assist totals, like, only came in with 3 for this game, which obviously we've seen him do better. Has 16 points, shot 4 of 11, did shoot 2 of 5 from 3, which is encouraging. 6 of 8 from the free throw line, also encouraging. But I think the most encouraging thing was just he continued to not force the issue in any way. And that's all you can really ask from RJ at this particular moment, as he is sort of, it seems like, trying to like recalibrate himself on the basketball court. So I really liked the game from him. Even if you were just box score watching this one, you would be like, this game was so ridiculously mid from him. Like, just he shot 4 of 11. Like, why is that good? Like, oh, only 3 assists. Why is that good? It's like, for me, it was less about the counting stats in this one and more about like watching him on the court was aesthetically pleasing, which is more than we can say about him a lot of times recently. So that I think is a good step, continued step in the right direction, because he had a very good game last game as well, where he actually did shoot super well.
Yeah, and he had one other, I think his first or his second assist of those 3 was a really nice look off to Jalen Brunson in transition. And obviously the Randle one was, I think, a slightly flashier pass, but the one to Brunson stood out to me just because he hasn't been making that pass the whole season. He's been sprinting into triple teams in lieu of making that pass. And my first thought when I saw him throw that is like, all right, Tibbs has just sat down with this dude for 2 hours and made him watch on a loop, like Clockwork Orange style, every single time he's missed an open shooter in the corner in transition. And RJ kind of came out of there. It was like, all right, not going to happen anymore. So he really made a point to throw that pass. Someone who has no issue passing the basketball or shooting the basketball, Quentin Grimes, who I thought this was a revelatory performance for him in that his shot was really on for the first time fully since coming back from injury. The defense is what flashed first, though. Had 2 steals in the first 6 minutes, ripping the ball away from Isaiah Stewart and then poking it away from Bogey. And then showed off really nice chemistry with Julius Randle. Had 2 different threes off little dribble handoffs with Julius. The second one was on a 25-footer, and he just, like, the catch to the shot was insanely smooth. He basically used a low catch as kind of an exaggerated gather and just rose all the way up and got to kind of his signature height, which makes his shot nearly unblockable. And then just flashed really good stuff in transition with 2 different layups. And to me, I feel weird taking a shot at Emmanuel Quickley when he's been playing so well lately and had another fantastic game. But I am just so much more confident when Quentin Grimes goes up for a layup versus Emmanuel Quickley, just because of his size, his strength, and he has a great knack for knowing when to use his inside hand on a finish and when a shot blocker is coming and he gets high enough that his hand is it's essentially a dunk because his hand is on the backboard as he's putting it in. But man, what a complete game. What an exceptionally smart player. It feels weird and a little preemptive to say this, Alex, but I guess outside of Jalen Brunson and maybe this, I got to whisper this, maybe even including Jalen Brunson. I remember last summer we did our Knicks young player power rankings and who would be the least tradable. I think Grimes is honestly like pretty quickly becoming a clear-cut number 1 for me. Like he just doesn't have a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, I guess it still just comes back to like, what do you view the ceiling of Grimes to be? But even if you're relatively conservative on what he could become, he still probably is going to be like a $20 million a year player in the NBA. Like he's certainly better than, or more. I mean, he's certainly better than like Evan Fournier or like Tim Hardaway Jr. or something like that, who both make like upwards of $20 million. So, will he ever get the opportunities or be counted on to score like 15 to 20 points per game? I don't know for sure, but could he get there? Yeah, for sure. I mean, these games show why that could be super easy for him, which is if he just shoots at, I don't know, a 40% clip, like he could reasonably make 3 threes a game easily. And then the other stuff is coming along so well. Like the ones that you mentioned, the transition layups, like one was off an offensive board and he just went up really smooth off of that and finished that. The other one, Mitchell Robinson threw like an awesome outlet pass off a rebound. Yeah, to Grimes streaking down the court. And, Grimes went up and got a layup off of that. He's really starting to show a complete skill set. In this one, he had that like Allen Houston, 3-point shot going perfectly, where it was just like everyone looked exactly the same. And there was one that I think he airballed. He missed the only miss that he had was pretty bad, but the rest, like the second they left his fingertips, you were like, yep, splash, that's in, that looks great. And it was just like the quintessential Quentin Grimes experience, I feel like. I actually will say too, we forgot to shout this out during the Julius part, but Julius became the 10th highest by like total number 3-point shooter in Knicks history in this game, which nestled him right under. I'm trying to remember.
Nate Robinson, I think, was ahead of him.
I think it was Nate Robinson.
Tim Hardaway is ahead of him.
Yeah. Tim Hardaway and a couple other guys in that general range that he could potentially pass soon. But I was thinking to myself when that graphic came up, like, yeah, Quentin Grimes probably won't be too far off at some point in the next like few years. You know, he'll be right around that top 10 because that 3-point shot is very pure and it's just going to keep going in. So, but yeah, Gavin, I think we could probably take our final break here real quick and just take a sec and then come back and talk about Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin and whoever else comes to mind, because there was plenty to like about the rest of the players in this game as well. So we'll do that next on Locked On Knicks. All right, and we're back, finishing up talking about this blowout win, 140-110. I don't know if we've quite underscored just yet how much of a dominant performance this was, but the score in this case tells the entire story. It was just a laugher. Starting from the second half onward, like the Pistons kept it sort of interesting through the first half, and then like third quarter is just like, nope, yeah, this is the worst team in the league without Cade Cunningham, without Jaden Ivey. This is definitely them. So yeah, it's let's just get this over with at this point. Gavin, I'll throw it to you. I mean, there's a few other good performances. I think I know where you're going to go here, but I will just kind of toss it to you and say, who do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, I will say quickly, similar to what we were saying about RJ, where like you can't take it for granted when he throws a pretty basic pass. You can't take it for granted when the Knicks beat the worst team in the league without their two best players by 30 points. That has been a rarity the last few seasons. Where I mean, you remember that, wasn't it on New Year's Eve, the Oklahoma City game where OKC was, I think, missing Shea, and the Knicks either lost or like it took a heroic performance from RJ for them to win. Like this is a team that very much plays down to their competition at points, usually in the form of close wins this season at least. But 30-point win, they fully took care of business. So holistically, let's shout at everyone on that front. But yeah, I am going to talk about Emmanuel Quickley, who statistically had another monster game, 15 points, 4 assists, 7 of 12 shooting in just 22 minutes. And he did a decent amount of this work in garbage time. So I don't know how much you want to take away from that. And I thought it was funny that it was in garbage time because it sort of looked like the Quickley we got the last 5 games of last season, all of which you could argue were kind of an extended garbage time for the New York Knicks. And unfortunately, between him and Obi, there are some elements of that have translated to this season, but by and large, it hasn't to the extent that we hoped it has. But that doesn't mean Quickley didn't have some flat out awesome moments in this one. Just 2 really good passes to start the game. The first one, pump fake, waited for 2 defenders to come, then just slipped it over to Quentin Grimes for an open 3, and then had a drive with the shot clock dwindling where he was staring at the corner and he baited, I think it was Bogdanovich to come off Cam Reddish and go over to Obi in the corner, and then he just threw a no look to Reddish from behind the backboard. That was one of the better passes he's thrown this season. My favorite basket that he had came in the second quarter when he did basically the Obi Toppin QB keeper, where he kind of took a hesitation dribble and froze like he was going to hand it off to someone, but there was no one there. And then he got a wide open layup. And I just thought that was cool. It felt like he was kind of like, it was like a tribute to his best friend. Like it was kind of a musician, like playing another musician's song. It was a beautiful play. And then just was like pretty unstoppable, getting to the rim at the end. Had a nice crossover and one, had a little pull-up midi that you always like to see from him, and you always hope that becomes a part of his game. So I don't know about you, Alex. I just thought it was a really complete performance from him.
Yeah, I thought it was a well-rounded game from Quick. I mean, and it felt like, I know that it's sort of, okay, maybe we could start using this phrase unironically. It was like vintage Quickley, like it feels weird to say that about anyone that's considered like the quote unquote young core, it's like still on their rookie deal and all that. But it was, remember all these times, like in his rookie year and sophomore year, I think those are probably the 2 biggest ones I could think of where he was like a point per minute guy, like he was scoring a 1 point every minute. And he was basically almost back to doing that, like 15 points in 22 minutes. This is what you want to see out of him. You want him to be like the spark plug, and you want him to be playing confident and loose and look like he's enjoying himself out there. And, I think one of the one of the bigger things that like underscored it for me was that he was out there like in garbage time even and was like still having fun. Like the game was well in hand. I think it was like early fourth quarter, and he goes out there and drains the three and just like had the biggest freaking smile on his face coming back down the other way, because it seems like he's kind of much like we're talking about. We're hoping that RJ does. It seems like Quickley, who also dealt with some shooting struggles of his own, is finally like unlocked his brain in some ways and is like feeling good now and ready to tackle some stuff and put up good numbers again and shoot well. But I really enjoyed watching him play in this game, and mostly because it looked like he was really enjoying himself. I will direct my attention next to Mitchell Robinson. I think I thought this was another really good game for him, even if uncharacteristically he only shot 50% from the floor in this game. But like 6 points, 13 boards, 2 steals and a block. I thought that his activity level on the defensive end was really good again. I just think that he's really finding himself with, I assume, still wearing that knee brace. His knee still looks like it has like the whole thing on it. But finding, his mobility again after coming back from that injury, occupying the right spaces. I mean, both of his steals were kind of just like placement steals where he was just like, it almost looked like it was like right place, right time, kind of lucky, but really it was just the like he positioned himself so well on these coverages while guys were trying to get inside that they were like, oh, let me feed it into so and so, whether it was like Isaiah Stewart or whatever. And then Mitch was like, oh no, I'm right here. Like, let me just take that and just, start this awesome fast break, which I alluded to with the Grimes section where he just threw this like great outlet pass to Grimes, who managed to finish for a layup. So I found this to be a very encouraging game for Mitch, and I hope that last game and this game are a big indication of what he's going to be bringing going forward, because it was a really, really great performance for him, I think.
Yeah, he just looked athletic rebounding the basketball. Like you could almost feel the ball deflating a little bit every time he palmed it. He was really good on the glass, and then he made quick passes off of it. In the first half, he got a big offensive rebound in traffic where he tipped it to himself and then just threw it to RJ, and RJ immediately drew a foul. And then there was another play that really stood out to me, because we always talk about him being kind of a crappy screener, and he showed off great craft. And honestly, this seems like something he must have worked on over the offseason, but I didn't typically see him do it. So him and Brunson set up, I believe it was left side of the court, either late third, early fourth, to run a pick and roll. And what Mitch did was so smart. As Brunson's guy was kind of trying to get over the screen, he turned his body, so he was almost like boxing him out with his butt, and it sort of sealed Brunson's guy on him, and that ensured that the switch would stay instead of the guard and the big being able to flip back right away. And then he started rolling to the basket, and because he had a tiny guard on him, Julius's man had to come over and help from the corner, and then Brunson just slung it over to Julius for a wide open three, and Julius missed it. Mitch ended up getting the offensive rebound, but it was just a play that he wouldn't make in the past. And it's just an example of him like creating an open shot for a teammate, even when he doesn't touch the ball, and just kind of using his gravity to positive effect. I'll quickly run through the last couple of guys. Derrick Rose, I thought, just had 2 sick plays in this game. Had a little curl around Isaiah Hartenstein for a dribble handoff, and then a really nice kind of double pump pass for a little layup alley-oop to Hartenstein. That to me was just vintage Derrick Rose. And then what was even more vintage Derrick Rose was had this just nasty hesitation move. I think it was on Isaiah Stewart, completely toasted him, made a layup. And it's just always nice to see that D Rose on the right night against the right opponent can still make people look stupid. And then I just wanted to shout out Isaiah Hartenstein himself, who I thought the Knicks were, or Tibbs specifically, was using him from the high post a little bit more, which we've been asking for a while. So that was nice. He was able to throw a couple of good passes in this game. Made a few nice shots. Had like a little 1-2 step banker off of a cut from Jalen Brunson pick, and then just was hustling all over the court. Like had a bunch of tap outs, had a couple nice saves. So I thought a pretty good game for him as well.
Yeah, I'll kind of wrap things up with giving quick shout outs to the Dunk brothers themselves, Obi Toppin and Jericho Sims, who I think gave me some of my favorite highlights right towards the end of the game. First, okay, I can't say first because I don't remember what order they happened in, but Sims came in mostly just for garbage time, like last like 6-7 minutes, and just was like the lob king, just out there just destroying the rim for like I think all three of his makes were alley-oops. I remember at least two of them were like the high arcing double-handed like Monstar dunks that he's kind of made his staple. And then Obi Toppin as well made a couple threes, which is great. Probably more useful in the long run, but the dunks went out for me. I mean, he threw down he has his own like signature thing he's been doing lately where he basically jumps like straight up in the air, but like you would think way too far away from the hoop and with no forward momentum almost, and just kind of like reaches out, and like he's so high up that he just kind of plops the ball into the rim because he's just that high up and has that long of arms. And so that was pretty cool. He did one of those dunks where it almost looks like he's like weirdly floating up until he just like viciously throws the ball through the hoop. So I enjoyed that very much. Those were two like moments that just made me smile in this one towards the end when, you know, it's like everything is wrapped up anyway. Let's just have fun and watch some dunks. So all in all, a fun game though in general for the Knicks. I think right up there with probably one of the most fun ones this season so far. There have been some that have been more entertaining from the perspective of like a big comeback or something. Like the one in Philly where, you know, Julius and Obi got to see the floor together and they made that comeback and won that game. But as far as just a pure laugher, where the Knicks just absolutely crushed, I think this one checked all the boxes. So I had a nice time watching this game.
Yeah, it was a joyride. I don't know if Milwaukee tomorrow is going to be the same, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. But for now,
from the worst team to the best team.
Yeah, let's see how they handle it. But for Alex Wolf, I'm Gavin Shaw. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have a game recap for you guys tomorrow. Then we'll wrap up the week with one final mailbag. I promise that will be a super fun episode. Shout out to everyone who listened to our last mailbag episode. I know it upset some of you, but it's doing really well, so we appreciate it. But until next time, talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.